Hello everyone with our first weekly strategy. Now today it's Sunday and we're going to have a look at the markets going into the week so that we can position ourselves and we can have an idea about the strategy for the week. Now the first thing I am looking at is obviously oil. When it comes to the biggest headlines, obviously we have the Iran war, the Strait of Hormuz, and Brent oil is the oil that is the most affected by the Strait of Hormuz, because the other type of oil, the one from the United States, obviously comes from the United States, so it's not much affected by it. It's still affected overall, but if I want more volatility, I would look at Brent oil, so I can have a bit more risk reward in terms of going long and going short. So we have a tweet actually today about Trump saying he paused a massive attack because there's talks of a possibility of a deal. This could just be a nothing burger as usual, as he usually does. So I would be very careful with thinking this is over. I don't think it's over. So I'm gonna keep my idea that the oil is gonna continue staying elevated or possibly even rise even more if things escalate. So that's the Brent oil. Now I'm looking at crypto. I'm looking at Solana or other cryptos, anyways, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the main ones, because we have, of course, we have all the problems with the Strait of Hormuz, which indirectly really affect it, but it's more of a macro story. Generally, going into the election year, midterms here, we're going to see some weakness in all of the markets. So I think that crypto will perform poorly, not because of crypto only, but because of everything else. So because of the market itself, I think there will be general weakness. We also have the US dollar at all times low. So that also tells me that there is a possibility of a bounce of the dollar if things escalate, if some major shock kicks in. And so that's why I'm also bearish on crypto or stocks or any other type of speculative asset. Now, speaking of stocks and speculative assets, the ones that I'm looking at the most at the moment are Tesla. There has been talks of a possible separation, division of the Chinese part of Tesla and the American part, the rest of the world part, because of some national security concerns when it comes to SpaceX, which is also related to Tesla, because there is some talks about a possible acquisition. So in the future, what it seems is that Elon would like to incorporate the two companies together, so into SpaceX possibly. So if there is a future merge, the Chinese division should be separated. There are news that some of the executives have been talking about separating the two entities. So that's possibly a bearish sign for the stock, because obviously a smaller Tesla, smaller market cap, smaller revenue would point to a lower price in the stock itself. So that's what I'm watching. Nothing is confirmed yet, so I would be very careful with trading it, with going too crazy about it. And I'm also looking at SpaceX, which I have been looking since the peak, since the opening really. There are a lot of unlocks coming in the next few months, up possibly until December. So there is a lot of bearish kind of pressure on this stock. And you can see even here, some technical analysts, they see it as strong sell. Now I don't look at any of this. I make my own judgment. But yeah, it's not looking too good for SpaceX. Even if it decides to acquire Tesla, in that case, depending on how the financing happens, that could also increase the amount of shares outstanding, right? If SpaceX decides to issue more shares to incorporate Tesla, then we would see even more shares dilution and possibly even more downward pressure on the SpaceX stock. Now, commodities. We are looking at silver. We're looking at gold, which I still think they are a little high, possibly on all the tensions. Of course, we have all these international tensions, trade issues, wars, whatever we want to call them. Wars, of course, we have a lot of different tensions, but ideally in a normalized world, these could possibly go lower, and I am still waiting for that. And another commodity which is unrelated, and that's why I like to look at it, which should be mostly unrelated to the rest of the market, although it would move lower in my opinion if the market and the macro sentiment turns sour, because obviously cocoa and chocolate are some of those not necessary, not essential items which would probably suffer a lot during a downturn of a global economy, of a global recession, in a scenario of a global recession. So possibly could be bad also for cocoa if things turn sour, but for the moment it's traded a lot based on the weather forecasts of obviously the regions that are producing cocoa the most. So these are the things that I'm looking at. Obviously the broader market is still elevated. There are talks of bubble, Ray Dalio. Some semiconductors are way too high. Some people are dismissing AI. So it is a mixed bag right now, but the market is still holding on, okay. And but yeah, we are looking forward for the next week, and we will see what happens, and we will act on this. I hope you found this video informative, and yeah, thank you for watching, and